friend of mine downloaded the app by Scarby called Funk Guitarist, and I took a look at it and I was just instantly just bowled over with not only the quality of the sounds, but how many you could get. Now, I'm a guitarist myself, so I don't have that application. However, when he played me a mix of stuff that he'd been working on with this guitar, it was just a little bit too much for me, and I just thought, really, you can program it to be simpler. But that's the point, you see. The presets themselves are quite sort of in your face. But when you're playing for a song and working for a song, we've got to be as simple as possible. Here I am then with iOS GarageBand, one of the best iOS programs ever devised. And actually I'm going to use only 5 tracks on this. 5. So, drums, bass, 2 guitars and a lead line. That's all I need. However, how am I going to make it so that I can get the rhythmic complexity and the diversity and all the gaps and everything to sort of sound right? Well, the answer is you divide it between the parts. So here are the drums first. Okay, so I'm just going to go into that and quantize to, I want the 16th swing. I want that sort of feel. So I'm just going to go in 16th swing heavy in the quantization settings there. And I'm also going to change the kit sound because I want something a little bit darker than that. Liverpool. Proper deep sounding kit, that is. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm just going to split at bar 5. And I'm going to loop that drum kit round. So I've got 8 bars of that kit. So there are no 8 notes on the hi-hat. It's all quarters. It's simply the beat. At the end, I've put the 8th notes in as a sort of drum fill without going mad with the toms or anything. So now I'm going to add a bass amp. So I've got my bass guitar, which I'm going to just plug in and just record a very, very basic line. Now I'm using the iRig Stomp here, but any of the iRig stuff, the IK Multimedia, if you want to plug your guitar in, is great. You can of course use things like the Focusrite, the little red things that you can put in, the Scarlett. Now with the bass line, I want to make the thing sound as simple as possible and so that it goes with the bass drum as well. Now I've just turned the output down and the bass control up a bit just to get a slightly simpler sound from the bass as well, so it's not too sort of present with the other parts. So, I'm in G there. I've just played Gs as well. Now, because of that, I can choose whether it's major or minor. I don't need the major or minor component to be in the bass line. It can just be in the chords. So there's another way of simplifying things. You can say, well, actually, the harmony is simply carried by the chords and not the bass line. So the bass is doing its job as really the companion of that drum kit. So I'm going to put some chords down on guitar now, so clean chords. Take the reverb off. I want it to be really dry and really gappy. Let's check that that sounds right. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to try something on guitar, some chords that are sympathetic to that line. Unlike the Scarby thing where I'm not going to do that because actually I want rhythmic complexity to come from the second guitar part that I've got, or rather they share that complexity. So nobody is sort of taking the limelight because that's the job of the lead line or the vocal. We're playing for that song. I'll start that again and turn the volume of the amp down so I can hear the others. There we go. Okay, now I've just got to be careful to make sure that those rhythmic pushes are actually feeling right. I'm rushing it. Now, I don't want that to happen. I've got to make this thing groove properly. Now, bad workman always blames his tools, so I'm just going to turn the drums up so that I can hear them. So, here we go. It pays to have the mix, you know, as you want it, so that when you're playing something like those stabs, which are really exposed, that you've got some sort of rhythmic backdrop to really back it up. Now, it doesn't help, of course, that the drums aren't playing eighth notes. Now, if you are on GarageBand, perhaps you could put eighth notes in on the hi-hat to start with, take them out afterwards, gives you a little bit of a reference point for your playing. Now, I'm going to add another part. Now, this time, I'm going to add just a single line. You hear a lot of records like this where you have a funk guitar sort of chords and then you have a counter line. Pick up the pieces by the Average White Band. Left hand side is the line and then the right hand side is the... But they're mixed in such a way that they don't get in the way of... Doesn't happen. So, and they're played, of course, in such a way that it doesn't happen. You can play more, but obviously if the mix is too high, then it's too prominent and it gets in the way. Here we are with just a single line then. Right at the end, there was a rhythmic error. So, I've just got to listen to that. Ah, there it is. God, it's well behind. But luckily, because it's so sparse, it's a piece of cake to edit on GarageBand because there's nothing else happening. Not quite. It's a little bit too far. I closed my eyes there because I don't want to look at pictures. I need to use my ears to work out whether that's right or not. And it's fine. So, 4 tracks only, and we've got pretty much the backing that we need. Yeah, you could have a Fender Rhodes if you wanted some sort of, some sort of sustained chord. But, you might use it, for example, and decide, well, actually, I don't really want that. I'm just going to mix it. No, it's just in the way. Don't need it. If you don't need it, just don't use it. Don't feel you have to use it. We've got so many tracks. Everything's available on Logic Pro or GarageBand. You've got so many tracks available. On GarageBand it's 32, but do we need all of those? Well, actually, they are useful for things like backing vocals or multi-track strings, but even then you can keep the ideas simple. So I'm going to put another track down using the guitar amp. Just going to put a distorted line down. This is kind of the top line, if you will, of the tune. But of course, we've got to make that line memorable. Even the top line has to be simple so that it can be memorized easily, or it just carries, it's like a hook line. So okay, it's not up to me whether that's memorable or not. It's up to the listener, of course. But I haven't had to do much in order to make that line come out. In fact, it could even come down in the mix. But one thing that I am slightly conscious of is that counter line is just a bit loud. So I'm just going to turn the drums down a bit and the rhythm guitar and the counter line. Now, another way of making them more present without turning them up is to pan them slightly. So if you're wearing a pair of headphones now, you'll hear these two guitar parts are directed to the left and right sides. Notice I've tried to keep all the reverb away, but perhaps that top line, in order to give it a little bit more of a lift over the clean sort of backing track there, would be to add a little bit of reverb. I did put some echo on, but it was just washing over everything and not really saying anything except, you know, I've kind of wasted my time with the backing track there. So I've got 5 tracks there. That's all I've got. I haven't got anything else, with a little correction. Don't tell anybody. Little correction there. If you do make a mistake on something like this and you just need to drag a note backwards and forwards, it's fine, because actually we're after just getting a really clean backing track, and then that top line can then just sit really nicely over the top.